Eagles haven't filled this spot?
They think Sirianni's a lame duck, and they don't want to move to Philly for a year to then lose the job. That's what I think. I mean, here we go. They have talked to or been connected to Mike McDaniel, Brian Daboll, Zach Robinson, Bobby Slowick, Declan Doyle, Mike Kafka, Arthur Smith, Charlie Weiss Jr. And those are people we know are not taking the job. They have been connected to and or talked to Jim Bob Cooter, Josh Grizzard, Matt Nagy, Frank Smith, and my old pal Gerard Johnson. Those people might take the job. We don't know. That's 13 people. This is an A-list franchise. They spend a ton of money. You are in a cosmopolitan, cool city, tough city, I understand. But, I think Philly is, right. If you were a better than average NFL city as far as I'm going to move there and have a good life, all those things. But I just think people are like, man, I'd rather, as Brian Daboll just showed, go to Tennessee, where Robert Saleh just got hired, where I think he has a long leash where we can grow together, rather than go to Philly, where I think the head coach is on the hot seat, and if he gets fired, almost always the whole staff. I understand the Bills just promoted the offensive coordinator from the fired coach, but that's pretty rare. That's my read on it.
Well, I think it has to be either that with Sirianni and maybe not respecting him, the not liking the way he acts, all his histrionics and stuff, or Jalen. To me, those are the only two possibilities. I get it that the city's tough, but it's a great sports town. If you're a head coach or a coach and you're afraid of the Philly fan, come on, you're not worth the job anyway. So I think it's got to be either Sirianni or Hurts. And obviously I like Jalen Hurts. He's proven he can win a Super Bowl. There was some reporting out of Philly that, he does his own thing and changes plays or whatever. So we're guys worried about that, not throwing as many intermediate passes. Do they feel he has certain limitations that they can't overcome? I don't know, but it's got to be either Sirianni or Jalen.
Sirianni, and for reasons different than Nick. And I say Sirianni because if you're an offensive coordinator, to touch on your point really quick, and the natural progression is offensive coordinator, have success, possibly get looked at to become a head coach. That's the natural progression. Same with defensive side of the ball. In this situation, you have all the skill guys. You have the personnel. Every coach believes, man, if I had that, I would be able to make something out of that. And so naturally, I don't go to the ideology of, man, a coordinator is going to be like, man, Jalen Hurts. No, because the coaches that aren't in the room with Jalen Hurts believe I can get more out of that guy. Every coach feels like they can get more out of somebody else's talent. The reason why I say Sirianni is because he seemingly has naturally, he's the head coach, has his hand in things to where if I'm coming in as a coordinator, it's either going to be this is what I'm bringing and we adapt and I bring on some of the old terminology and some of the old things that I feel like would marry well, or you're telling me this is what you're going to get. And this is how you're going to run. This is how you're going to.
At least some of the guys will have full control of the offense.
So, but
the OC.
And you can say that. However, coaches talk just like players talk. Hey, man, how was your experience? Was it just you? Were you running the offense?
Nah, man,
did Sirianni
in those meetings.
Did Sirianni have any say that it's just different when you're actually in a system? I just find it hard to believe that a offensive coordinator seeing that type of talent. Obviously, there's some unknowns about is AJ going to be there, how it looks moving forward, but it's still a very talented roster offensively. Saying, nah, I don't want to chance my career on that.
So I think Greg brought up some really great points, and I really want to unpack this. Clear's throat in a few different ways. I'm not even really going to address Bruce Jalen Hurts thing, because that's just honestly truly one of the dumbest that doesn't make any sense. They're willing to take jobs with other quarterbacks. We're essentially saying that Jalen Hurts is the worst quarterback in the NFL. That's what you would have. You'd have to say that Jalen Hurts is such a bad quarterback that I believe that I can't win with this guy. So I'd rather take any other job. Really, out of all the quarterbacks that are in the NFL, it's obviously not that. And so to even entertain that is just comically hilarious. And I'm impressed that Nick Wright himself didn't even do it. And that's why Greg is like, no, because Greg's like, every single coach believes that they can get the most out of the players and whatnot. So even if you think Jalen Hurts isn't that good, you're a coach, and you think I will get that quarterback to work. I'll get him. Like, that is how all these how all these coaches operate. All of them. All of them. All of them. But you have to understand, and this is what Greg brought up as well, and this is what I was going to bring up about the whole, you're trying to be a coordinator, because then you want to be a head coach and what that path looks like. And the reality is that if you're any of these other guys, Doyle, whoever, especially since the Eagles had just won a Super Bowl in 2024 and then took a backward step, essentially anything less than a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl, or at the minimum, I guess, getting to the Super Bowl, you're going to not look as great as you would if you just made the Tennessee Titans and Cam Ward pretty good, or have some success in college or whatever, whatever it may be, whatever the situation is. You're in a position where you can still kind of build your resume in a way that you can leverage for a better job. So even the Bears offensive coordinators, like, I get to stay here with Ben Johnson, okay? I get to continue to learn from Ben Johnson and the continued success that I believe that we're going to have there. My stock is going to elevate. My stock is going to be able to elevate. And then there's a real chance that actually I can just go get a head coaching job at that point. Whereas if I go to the Eagles and I do pretty well, pretty good, and we get to the divisional round and go and get knocked out, which, newsflash, lots of teams do. The Bills, the Ravens, the Bengals, like, all these teams do, right? So not every team's just winning a Super Bowl. The 49ers, whatever, the Rams, that is kind of seen as a pretty epic failure for the Philadelphia Eagles and therefore that coordinator. That is the reality. So it is from a job standpoint and trying to leverage your career and trying to get the most out of the decisions that you have for you, because you can't just say, well, you got to just bet on yourself if you can't find a way to win with this. It's like, it's not that straightforward, man. It's really not. There's only one NFL, so you can't just say, well, I'm just going to go to the other NFL. Like, this is the opportunity that you have. And so it makes a lot of sense. And listen, Brian Daboll was only taking the head coaching job with the Bills or coordinating with the Titans. Like, he wasn't saying that he was willing to be a coordinator for the Bills. And he was, because he's like, I'm not going to be a coordinator for the Bills. And yet that's Josh Allen. That's Josh Allen. But he wasn't going to entertain that. And it's because it's a career move. It's a career move. It's way more straightforward, because if he goes to the Buffalo Bills and then also doesn't win a Super Bowl, essentially, they're like, you couldn't even win a Super Bowl with Josh Allen. You couldn't even elevate Josh Allen. Yeah, you got to the AFC Championship game. Congrats. So did Joe Brady. But, like, you now go with Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans and you just get them to the playoffs? Heck, the Eagles could be firing Nick Sirianni and say, hey, we want you to be the head coach of the Eagles. Like, like the Commanders fired Dan Quinn and they say, Brian Daboll, we want you here. Clearly, you're a great offensive mind. We want you as the head coach. And that's just getting Cam Ward looking kind of good and getting into the playoffs. So the path, the what you have to accomplish from a resume standpoint to get to the promised land of being a head coach and truly running the franchise is so much different than if you go to a team like the Titans. Mike McDaniel just wins a playoff game, just wins a wild card round with Harbaugh and Justin Herbert out in LA. That is a massive victory. Mike McDaniel wins the Wildered round with the Philadelphia Eagles, but then loses to the Los Angeles Rams. That's a disaster. That's a disaster. And when you combine that with the intensity of the media and all that, you're just like, it doesn't really make sense. So I get why they're having some trouble, combined with also now having to work with Sirianni, which I don't know how much people want to work with him. I don't really know. I think that's really hard to know. It's easy to say on the outside, but I don't know. I don't know. But it is a tricky situation. And I know a lot of the trolls and the haters are going to be like, it's because of Jalen Hurts. And it's like, Again, sure, right? Because we don't have coaches taking jobs with clearly worse quarterbacks than Jalen Hurts. It's like, so again, you can control all you want, but that's clearly not what's actually happening here. But it is considering what the Eagles have been able to accomplish, what they've been able to achieve, what they're looking to continue to do, having some of the issues of Nick Sirianni, A.J. Brown, whatever, the intensity of the media, the fans demanding greatness. If you're an offensive coordinator who's trying to be smart about the decisions that he's making to try to become a head coaching job, become a head coach, the Philadelphia Eagles would not be at the top of your list. And this is someone who find someone who has defended and has spoke more highly of the Philadelphia Eagles. If I was trying to enter the NFL and become a head coach, my dream was to become a head coach. I'm telling you right now, again, I've praised Jalen Hurts. I've defended the Eagles franchise, believed in them before they won the Super Bowl, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to the point where people think that I am so biased towards the Philadelphia Eagles and all that stuff. I'm telling you right now, as amazing and as exciting and as iconic as the Eagles franchise are, getting to work with Harry Roseman and knowing that you're going to have a great team and a great roster and what that opportunity can present itself. I mean, I'm just saying it out loud. You're like, yeah, the opportunity is incredible. But if I'm truly trying to find my way to be a head coach, there is an absolute real argument to be made that's like, you know what? I'm going to choose the Chargers and Justin Herbert and Harbaugh and live in LA. Like that. You know what? Tennessee Titans with a brand new young quarterback who had an okay rookie year. Like I can leverage that into a head coaching job so much more easily. So Snorts much more. Does Kel Moore get a head coaching job if they lose to the Rams? Does he become the Saints head coach? Seriously, probably not. I mean, let's be serious here. Probably not. And yet, Brian Daboll gets that offense just looking semi-organized in Tennessee, and they're the 7 seed in the wild card round, and you get a bunch of 5-6 teams fire their coaches. People like, oh, they're interested in Brian Daboll. Look what he did with the Tennessee Titans and Cam. They made the playoffs for the first time since Bray Roll left. Like it's just such an easier path. And don't I encourage people to not just jump and be like, well, if you can't, essentially if you can't handle the heat, then get out of the kitchen, or like you got to be able to compete in this, that. It's like we're talking about a career though. We're not talking about competing. We're talking about like, I need to make the right decisions for like my literal professional career, my ability to be able to accomplish what I'm looking to accomplish, become a head coach, get paid, all that type of stuff, lock up a 5-year, $50 million contract. And so if I'm looking to leverage that, if I'm looking to become a head coach, it's like, yeah, I'm going to stay with the Chicago Bears right now, especially because I'm going to ride the coattails of Ben Johnson, and I'm also going to continue to learn from Ben Johnson as much as I can. That's a better prospect for me right there. And I get to go to Tennessee and start fresh out there. I get to go to the Los Angeles Chargers, who have not won a playoff game with Justin Herbert. And I also get to kind of get a little bit of a springboard off of Harbaugh and whatnot. And I get to live in LA. So like those things all make sense. They all completely make sense. But again, you can't say, oh, Jalen Hurts, it's like they got the 2 Super Bowls. Okay. So, but again, it's not enough at this point. It's legitimately from a coaching perspective, win the Super Bowl or bust. That's truly what it becomes with the Philadelphia Eagles. And so you're not going to want to move to Philly. You're not going to want to uproot your family. And they did see what happened with Kevin Patullo, and they're all like, oh my gosh, who wants to sign up for that? Especially if you're trying to leverage for a head coaching job, which all these guys are. So it makes complete sense. It's frustrating how Roseman has to find a way through it. And listen, man, I'm aggressive, and it's easy for me to be aggressive on the sidelines. It's easy to spend someone else's money, but I'm like fire and take a swing on Kubak. Bring him in. Make him the head coach. Maybe he wants to go to the Raiders because he can start new rookie quarterback. All that fun stuff. Harry Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, you got the money. You got the iconic franchise of the Philadelphia Eagles. As Nick Wright himself even admitted, an A-plus franchise to the point where players absolutely love playing in Philadelphia. It's why there's never an issue getting talent there. Listen to Max Crosby say, "Man, you dream of playing in front of a place like Philadelphia." That was Max Crosby saying it. You can get an incredible coach. You can get your elite coach. I do not think Nick Sirianni is this elite coach. I think he's a good coach. I've defended what he brings to the table, and I did, and I praised him for how he got everyone ready for the Super Bowl and all of that. But I said this weeks before that, months, I guess, before that, that the Philadelphia Eagles are such a great franchise, great ownership, great GM, great fan base, all that type of stuff. They deserve a truly great legendary coach. The coach that people are just like, this guy is doing things that are just so ahead of everyone else. They do deserve the Ben Johnsons. They do deserve the Sean McVays, the Shanahans, and maybe the Kubaks. They do deserve that. And that really is the difference between truly building a dynasty and winning and winning and winning. And I know some Eagles fans are going to be like, well, what a Shanahan won. McVay, we're 3-0 against McVay, or, you know, whatever it is. And it's just like, I think that's too narrow of a way to look at it. I think it's too narrow of a way to look at it. And if we're really being honest with ourselves, you really don't think this Eagles team would be better with Ben Johnson, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. If you don't, then I really encourage you to look into more deeply what especially an offensive coach can do for an offense. I've tried so hard to show videos, clips, breakdowns, all that type of stuff. This Philadelphia Eagles team, although this O-line was a big issue, and it definitely was a huge Achilles heel for them, no doubt, I would still argue that the coaching was too devastating. And you could see that at such moments throughout the course of the season, from a game plan, play calling, game management, etc., etc., etc. And if you just got the right coach, you're set. And listen, you're also in a position where you now get to maximize Jalen Hurts. And you also now, if you have the right coach, you could then make the really hard decision if it comes to it. I maximize Jalen Hurts as much as I can. It's time for us to move on. It's time for us to go in a different direction. When, and I'm not saying that's this year, next year, whatever, but you just, you trust it. You trust when it's time to say, okay, it's time to go in a little bit of a different direction, or the confidence of like, we can move on from A.J. Brown because I love this guy in the 3rd round that we are going to draft. And I'm telling you, man, all the stuff that I want to do with him, let's go. You're not going to have that same level of confidence with a Sirianni or a revolving door of coordinators, but you can get that with a Shanahan. You can get that with the McVay. You do get that with Andy Reid, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I'm fascinated to see who they get. Doesn't seem like they're ultimately going to get a coordinator that is like a hot name that everyone's just like, oh my gosh, doesn't seem like that's going to be the only other available name at that regard. At that point would be Cliff Kingsbury, I suppose. And Orlovsky said this, I don't know where the clip is, but he pretty much said that like, you got to get the way with the way the NFL is going. You got to hire a coach that is operating from like a Kubak Shanahan type, you know, philosophy and way of going about it. And the more I listen to Shannon, I'm not going to play the clip, but the more I listen to Shanann and talk about what he offers and what he does for his quarterbacks and what he looks to do, it's just like it really makes the most amount of sense. And once you start naming like 10 different coordinators, I'm like, you know, what are they looking to do? What type of offense are they looking to operate? And I do want to see, and that's why I showed you the clip before about Dan Orlovsky talking about you need continuity to be able to develop your quarterback, something that Jalen hasn't had. And it's like you want that continuity. You want Jalen Hurts to continue to develop, and you want the right coordinator to run the right offense to maximize that, to enhance that, to unleash that. And it's just not the same as just saying, well, we're just going to get a great offensive coordinators. It's like, what is the offense that you're looking to run? What is the system you're looking to run? Football, quite frankly, is more about systems than anything else, more than anyone truly wants to acknowledge. And if they get that correct, rather than just the name itself, or just knowing we should run here instead of pass here, you're in such a significantly better spot to get to work and win and win and win and develop. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia goals? What do you think the biggest reason the Eagles are struggling to find an offensive coordinator? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So, you agree with me or disagree with me? Either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much.